The first official WWE Hall of Fame inductee is revealed. The big-time wrestler returns to Smackdown, and the first ever UK champion in the WWE is crowned. All that and much more coming up right here, right now on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Octavius, the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight-edge, hardcore Hall of Famer hero. And David, how the heck are you here on this day in 2017?
I am ecstatic.
Ecstatic?
Yeah.
What brought you to ecstasy today?
Well,
is it our different location here in Casablanca on Brady?
It is. You know, I love the drapery behind us. I think that's...
Does the carpet match?
Yeah, yes. Here it does.
Where doesn't it?
Some other places it doesn't always match up. But, you know, it's been a great week. We're almost a week away from San Antonio.
We are 1 week away from San Antonio, Texas, and the Royal Rumble, one of the biggest Royal Rumble matchups in the history of the match. And a lot of big things happened this week, David Hero, to get set up for it.
Tremendous.
The first of which is not necessarily about the Royal Rumble, but in the beyond. As we go into this week's big story, Kurt Angle is announced as the first inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2017. This came out of nowhere, announced on Monday, actually broken earlier by, as they do with Hall of Fame stories, broken earlier by, I believe, an ESPN online media outlet. Kurt Angle says he was contacted only on Monday to talk to him about his induction into the Hall of Fame. We talked about Kurt Angle just last week right here on this very broadcast, David Hero, and what the chances were of him participating in the Royal Rumble, let alone who knew we would be here this week talking about him being the main event of the Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. I mean,
anything
is definitely possible in the WWE. Kurt Angle deserves to be in that Hall of Fame.
He deserves to be in that Hall of Fame, absolutely.
And here's what the beauty of it is.
What's the beauty of it, Dave?
Is all the sites that have leaked who the Hall of Fame was going to be, none of them had Kurt Angle on there.
None of them had Kurt Angle on there, no.
Not one. So great for Kurt.
Not that those names won't necessarily potentially be revealed as accurate later.
But what's amazing is Kurt gets to come home. He's been saying that for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
He said it's the only Hall of Fame he really wants to be in, which... I mean, I guess, you know, the TNA potluck party was cool, but...
He is in just about every other Hall of Fame in professional wrestling, including the TNA Hall of Fame.
And you know what? Kurt's going to have something at WrestleMania.
Really?
I do. I really think so.
Okay, let's book it, Dano. Right now, sitting here knowing that Kurt Angle is going into the Hall of Fame, there's so many unknowns going into WrestleMania, but if you think he's going to have an active role as opposed to just being announced as part of the Hall of Fame roll call by Howard Finkel, what will it be, David Hero? What would you do? A little miniature Be the Booker here in the big story. What would you do with Kurt Angle in Orlando for WrestleMania?
I'd have him in a 6-man tag with the America Alpha.
Wow.
Against Rusev.
One of the first people to hop on the bandwagon of Kurt Angle being inducted.
And with Rusev, Jinder Mahal, and somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, Arya Daivari.
Does that not diminish his value?
Not at all, because
it helps them.
It gives the American Alpha a huge rub.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you get to see Angle in a match with Rusev.
What was the scenario with the world's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas? He was their mentor for a time, right? He brought them in
yes, he did.
and made them stars.
Yes.
American Alpha are already stars, but they could be that much bigger with
huge.
the rub from Kurt Angle.
There's no question. That's what I would do. Bring Kurt in, let him have the send-off at the Hall of Fame, send-off at WrestleMania, and then Kurt Angle can then be like a Ric Flair or a Hulk Hogan and be a goodwill ambassador for the company.
Here's the thing, and I'll challenge you on this. I don't think that that's a bad scenario, but I'm not sure it puts Kurt in the light he should possibly be in. Kurt Angle is a tremendous performer, and Kurt Angle still has a lot of gas left in his tank. Why not have him have a marquee matchup? And one thing that was talked about, actually, I think we're going to talk about it in Feedback Friday tomorrow. No, we're not, actually. But what about Kurt Angle versus John Cena? AJ Styles. Remember when Cena came in, it was Angle he first got over on SmackDown in 2002.
I don't see Kurt Angle and John Cena happening. Not at all.
So if it were a singles match, what would you do?
Rusev.
Really?
Absolutely.
Do tell.
Why not? It's the it's the perfect match for Kurt Angle.
Ziggler?
No. If you're going to have Kurt, you want him against the anti-American.
Because he is the American hero, the
Yes, he
first
is.
Olympic gold medalist in his weight class from the United States.
Yes. That's what I would do. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
What about the chances now, given this news being revealed by WWE, what about the chances now of Kurt Angle being in next weekend's Royal Rumble? You like it, but you don't.
No, I mean, I can see it, but don't you want to save...
Well, you'll be there live, so you would see it.
Don't you want to save Kurt Angle for something bigger?
They've already announced basically he's back with the company, right?
They announced he's not going into the Hall of Fame.
In the fans' minds, what does that mean? He's back with the company.
Right, but what I'm... Yeah.
So, anything's possible. So they may dance around it a little bit, but now he's out there. And now, at least, this could have been brilliant on both parts by WWE. It's out there, he's out there, and people are at least thinking, a lot of fans, that he's going to be one of those 30 entrants into the Royal Rumble.
I don't see it happening. It'd be cool because then you can see him and Brock, him and Goldberg, him
All
and,
the history.
him and Taker, I mean, he'd be a great body to have in there, but I just don't see it.
Let me ask you this.
You don't put a Hall of Famer in there like that for him to get thrown out.
Have you watched the Royal Rumble before?
But Kurt Angle, we're talking about
But a story can be told. Maybe the WrestleMania match comes out of the Rumble.
him and Rusev.
Fine, if that's what it's going to
Yeah,
be,
that's
maybe
what
it
it's gonna
does.
be.
Now, I know you're not a subscriber to this this belief, but what if it were Angle versus Taker at WrestleMania? We've never had that at Mania, I don't think.
No, it'd be a great match. It would
But both
be.
men would need to be driven out on that little golf cart like Taker was at 27.
Yeah. There's
Or 28,
there's
whichever one it
no
was.
doubt. But again, Taker's not going to put over Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
I don't think he needs to, though. I think the athleticism and the match itself would be of dream match quality. For two men near 50 years old.
I'd rather see Taker and Cena. I know that's been scrapped right now, or it's not.
That's just what you read online.
No, that's what I've been hearing.
Because you use the Audible version of the internet, right?
I do, yeah.
It reads to you?
Yeah, it does. It's so much easier.
Well, it helps you drive.
Exactly.
Because for you, driving's the third task you're doing.
Sometimes the fourth.
What do you think is the long-term goal with Kurt Angle being back in the good faith, if you will, of WWE and a part of this year's WrestleMania festivities?
He'll be at Hall of Fame. He'll be at Access. I think he'll be at WrestleCon as well. I actually would expect to see him return to the ring at SummerSlam.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to. So let's say he goes to Mania, gets a match, and loses. Does that at all taint? Well, he would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 nights before. Does that taint anything, though?
No, not at all. But it does, but it doesn't. I mean, he's still a Hall of Famer. If he's headlining the Hall of Fame, he's not putting anybody over at WrestleMania.
Well, folks, that is this week's big story. Kurt Angle back in WWE, and he will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as part of WrestleMania weekend in Orlando.
Primetime continues with this week's Raw Report, Smackdown Report, Hot News, and the 3 Count.
The biggest party event of WrestleMania weekend is back. WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash presents Shenanigans Orlando. Join Nash and his friends for a huge VIP party Saturday, April 1st. Party with the biggest stars of wrestling at the pub at Point Orlando on International Drive to kick off WrestleMania weekend. Don't miss Shenanigans Orlando, hosted by Kevin Nash. Tickets are available now and going fast at PWRshow.com. That's PWRshow.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero on January 19, 2017. We are 1 week away from the Royal Rumble, and WWE Raw this past Monday night really ended on a strong note going into their main event of that pay-per-view event. You can't wait? Well, you're going to have to wait because it's a week away.
I know, but I don't want to wait. I mean, I've heard so much about this, como se dice, Riverwalk.
What are they going to sell out the Alamo Dome, do you think?
I think so.
If they don't, let's say they do 50,000. Is that still a good thing?
Well, you got to figure how the set's going to be set up. I'm sure they're going to tarp off part of it. They're going to have to.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about if 60,000 is the configuration they expect to sell. If they sell less than that and have to cover empty seats that they didn't plan on being empty. Is that a failure?
No, I don't think so.
It's interesting. A lot of people talk about the numbers and the inflation and, how WrestleMania 3 was inflated, how WrestleMania last year was inflated and all that stuff. But without realizing that, even with the inflated numbers, they still sell like 60, 70, 80,000 tickets to these events.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's tremendous.
But be that as it may, folks, let's get to this week's
Be
WWE.
that as what may?
Be that as it may.
Oh, we're talking about it again.
Yeah, it.
Okay.
Let's get to this week's WWE Raw report. Raw this past Monday night featured the return of Brock Lesnar to WWE television. I would not have expected him to be a part of the opening segment with all of the other Raw regulars. But one thing that was notable in his destruction of Roman Reigns, I believe it was at the end of that segment, was his face-off with Braun Strowman.
Brock Lesnar came down and cleaned house.
He did.
Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn.
not as devastatingly as I thought he would.
He can't kill off all those guys.
It was smartly done. You're absolutely right. But
yeah.
Brock Lesnar, before the defeat at Survivor Series, would have killed off all those
Braun
guys.
Strowman is a freaking beast.
And don't just gloss over the endorsed Sami Zayn as you did, because he came and brought it to Strowman in that.
From behind.
Well, he wanted to get the upper hand, the early advantage.
Is that how you do things? It's from behind us to get the upper hand?
At
He's
times.
supposed to be a baby face.
Sure.
Should attack from the front, not the back.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn, I don't get it.
What don't you get?
I
He's endorsed.
They have him so high up on the card.
Oh, here we go. And why shouldn't he be?
I don't think he's ready yet.
You think he's somewhat generic?
No, he used to be. He doesn't fit.
What doesn't he fit, David Hero? Just talk. I mean, you're not saying what you're saying, so say what you're saying.
I mean, it's like you have Roman Reigns as Superman, okay?
No, he's the guy.
You got Seth Rollins is like Batman, okay?
Okay.
You have Brock Lesnar as the Incredible Hulk.
Just don't make him angry.
And then, Braun Strowman is Bizarro Superman. And then it's like, Sami Zayn's kind of like Robin, the Boy Wonder.
So he's part of the team. So he belongs. Robin's right alongside
he's
Batman.
He's always the one that they almost would rather have sitting in the car.
There was only room for one in the new Batmobiles.
So he wouldn't have made it there either. I'm just saying he's super talented, but they haven't done anything with him to make him legitimate.
Brock Lesnar this past Monday on Raw.
Yeah, awesome. He is. I mean, they have brought him back to be strong again after he got killed by
Did he get
Goldberg.
killed or did he just lose? There's a difference.
He got squashed by Goldberg.
But he got caught off guard and lost unexpectedly. I think
Agreed.
that's different.
No, he didn't get any offense in. He got squashed in the main event of SummerSlam.
It was the Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
So they've used Lesnar in a different way this past Monday night, in your opinion?
They had to. They had to have him go out there and kill people.
And that he did, folks. Also, we saw the six-man tag team match main event end in complete mayhem up on the set and the broadcast table. Broadcasters go scurrying away. Kevin Owens, at the end of the day, puts Roman Reigns through the broadcast table, and the show ends on a loud, silent note, with him standing high with the championship.
You know what's
held
been
high.
amazing about Roman Reigns is he has been getting his butt kicked a lot lately.
He has. He lost his United States Championship last week to Chris Jericho. He he got destroyed by Brock Lesnar and then Kevin Owens on Monday night.
You know, he has.
What does that mean? What are you saying?
He's been humanized. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're preparing him for something else bigger coming up.
Such as a win next Sunday at the Royal Rumble?
I don't think he wins the Rumble. I really don't.
Okay. If he doesn't win the Rumble, if he makes it through Fastlane, what's his role at WrestleMania?
He's not in the world title picture.
Not.
He's not.
If he doesn't win at the Rumble.
It might be Jericho and Reigns at Mania.
I love how Seth Rollins made the point of the fact that he cashed in or was part of the main event involving Reigns and Lesnar back in the past. There was some good, solid discussion and talk on Raw this past Monday night, including a segment I love more than I thought I ever could or would. Charlotte, who is one of the best performers in the entire company.
She's starting to
right
earn
now.
that number 2 draft pick.
Right now, just simply laid into Bayley and did so in one of those, I guess you can call it work shoots kind of way, because Bayley, who Charlotte said was nothing more than a glorified fan, well, some people view her as that.
You do,
and
don't
Charlotte
you?
called
You
her
do.
out as such.
You
No,
kinda do.
No, not at all. I think she's a character in and of herself, and she's resonated with younger female audience members. I think that's a good thing. I think she rounds out the division.
No, she does, and she sells a lot of merchandise to those young kids. She's a hugger. But Charlotte is just, I mean...
The poems, the videos.
She has elevated herself so much.
She really has. And the arrogance, the aura, the
she's so good at it.
Flair.
She is so
that
good
she
at
has.
it. Yes. Her promos are fantastic.
She stumbles every now and again, but it doesn't stop her.
No. She
doesn't stop
You
her.
believe that Charlotte is who she says she is.
So you think she deserves to be the number 2 draft pick?
She's no longer called Charlotte. She's now a Charlotte Flair.
Are they doing that now?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Had not noticed.
Mm-hmm. Little things.
Her and Bayley on their way to the Royal Rumble. That was a great segment I think those two had this past Monday night.
It was solid, and it gets you engaged, and it makes Bayley the underdog every time.
How about the club getting a victory by a disqualification over Sheamus and Cesaro?
Needed it, because they have been nothing but short of disappointment since they've been here. It's been a year, and they've done nothing worthwhile.
Also, no McMahon, no Foley on this past Monday's Raw. Did it hurt or help the show?
I don't think it hurt at all. Because they can't be the focal point every week.
Right.
You have to
and Stephanie was a huge focal point last week.
You have to put the focal point on the stars.
Well, folks, that is this week's WWE Raw Report.
Primetime continues with this week's Smackdown report, hot news, the 3 count, and DWHS.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here on YouTube and Fight TV. And, of course, want to remind you, you can check out the Pro Wrestling Report on Fight TV. That's F-I-T-E, the Fight TV app. It's a free application you can get right on your mobile device. Download the app from the Google Play Store or the iTunes Store. And when you select your content on Fight TV on the app on the phone.
It's just on here like this?
It's just on here like this. You can watch it on your device, or you can just click to stream it right to your Roku player, your Apple TV, your Wi-Fi enabled TV, and you watch it on the big screen streaming over your Wi-Fi network. It's quite brilliant. The app itself to get is free of charge and available right now, like I said, on the Google Play and iTunes stores. Watch Ring of Honor on Monday nights.
FightTV.com/PWR show, right?
Good job, close, David Hero. It was on screen a minute ago. Fight.tv
Oh, that's right.
/PWR. Try to make it easier.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Fight.tv /PWR. And with that, folks, let's get to this week's WWE Smackdown report. Smackdown on Tuesday from, where were they? They were in North Little Rock, Arkansas at the Verizon Arena. That's where Bill Clinton's, no, he's from Hope,
They were
Arkansas.
in Memphis.
They were in Memphis. Monday was from Arkansas.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
Jeez.
Get the cities mixed up. And it's important to note that they were in Memphis because we saw the return of the King, Jerry the King Lawler, with his guest, Dolph Ziggler, in the King's Court. Things got real heated real fast, and I didn't remember. I didn't remember the circumstances that Ziggler brought up. But before Ziggler brought up those circumstances, he wasn't necessarily an active participant in the King's Court, failing to answer Jerry's questions. Jerry then saying that he's basically a loser and has always been a loser. And if you look at the win-loss record of Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler finally wants to say something to Jerry Lawler, but he says it with a swift kick to the heart. Now, this after Dolph Ziggler reminded Jerry that it was the match with him that preceded his heart attack in 2012. Things got real fast.
Yeah, Jerry seemed angry. You know, there was definitely some heat there with that whole thing.
Well done, though, to play off of real life in this segment, and then it would lead
Where
to...
does Dolph Ziggler go?
Goes heel, I guess.
No, but now with who?
Apollo Crews, Kalisto. Why are you still sour on Apollo Crews? What has happened to you? You hate every wrestler but Braun Strowman and Lesnar this week.
No, it's just like now Ziggler's in the spot of elevating guys.
And the problem with that is,
no, you don't. How is he going to elevate Kalisto?
Ziggler's been there for what, 12 years now? What's the problem?
Forever, ever. He's been a cheerleader. He's been a golf caddy. You know,
he's been endorsed for many of those years.
Well, yeah.
And he's a former world champion, let's not forget.
by
former
cashing
Money
in,
in the Bank.
by cashing in.
Oh, so does that diminish Edge's
course it does.
championship?
Yeah.
Does that diminish anyone else, CM Punk's championship?
Yeah, because they cashed in when the guy was
They
weak.
took advantage of an opportunity. They became the champion. Is it
Exactly.
their fault that they were afforded that opportunity?
No. But, I mean, certain guys have, like John Cena.
Triple H's first championship, one of his first championships, the belt was just handed to him.
This is
at Raw in
well-deserved.
2003. So that's better than cashing in a
course.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Where does your logic emanate from? Like, how does it happen? What is the process? Because it's all just so
I
flawed.
just go with whatever makes sense at that moment.
At that moment, which explains the consistency issues that you have. Also on SmackDown this past Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, from Memphis, Tennessee, we saw La Luchadora finally be revealed as somebody none of us were really expecting in Mickie James. Mickie James, we knew she was on her way back to WWE in the main roster after appearing in NXT at the last TakeOver event, I believe.
And
it
let's
was a
not
part of
forget, she
Survivor
was at
Series.
Blizzard Brawl as well.
She was at Blizzard Brawl just a couple of months ago, but she also assisted in the win by Alexa Bliss, retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship. I was happy to see Mickie.
Shorter than Alexa Bliss.
You know, here's the thing, though. When Mickie was in the ring and she was throwing a few kicks, or La Luchadora, I mean, when she was in the ring throwing a few kicks to Becky Lynch, I said, she's got that Mickie James stance.
Well, and she also filled it out better than the last two Luchadoras. Let's be honest.
True.
Okay?
But Mickie James back in SmackDown is where she landed, David. Your thoughts?
Which is interesting because she used to be in a relationship with John Cena, and now she's on his show.
That also part of the reason she was not with the company anymore, right?
I think so, yeah.
Got switched brands and then got switched out.
Yeah, something like that.
Huh. Interesting.
Anything is possible.
What do you mean anything's possible?
Well, I'll say that for DWH.
Why did AJ Styles say that John Cena only got his match because of his brother-in-law this past Tuesday night?
Because
Am I missing a family member of some sort?
Well, Daniel Bryan.
That's not John Cena's brother-in-law. Oh, that took a while to get there.
Oh my God! I guess so.
Yeah, I missed the part of that loop.
I guess you did. See, that's why my common sense is better than yours.
But folks, there was more Wyatt family drama this past Tuesday night on SmackDown as well. Luke Harper and Randy Orton actually coming to blows, fisticuffs, broken up by Bray Wyatt, who then throws a punch to Luke Harper. The match is announced for next week on SmackDown. Luke Harper versus Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton, and at the end, per Bray Wyatt, the family will be stronger no matter who wins and loses. And following that, all three will enter the Rumble.
I just don't like the fact that the Wyatts are already feuding in-house fighting.
It's been longer than you may think. Because it was after SummerSlam when Orton got beat by Lesnar that he aligned himself with the Wyatts.
I'm just not a fan.
You just haven't cared. And I say that because I haven't necessarily either, because this is an allegiance none of us have really fully understood what the purpose of is. Mm-hmm. And as I'm watching Bray Wyatt on SmackDown this past Tuesday, I'm thinking there was so much there. There was so much potential there with the character, the story, and it has all fizzled over the course of the last year. His injury really did hurt his momentum, did Bray Wyatt?
There's no doubt. It really did.
Well, we also had the announcement that the Elimination Chamber, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be on the way to WrestleMania between the Royal Rumble and that previously said event, WrestleMania. And AJ Styles is going to have to defend, if he wins on at the Rumble against Cena, he's going to have to defend that championship against 5 other men in the Hell in a Cell structure. You could assume that those men will include John Cena and The Miz and I believe Dean Ambrose, who were part of that promo on Tuesday to start the show.
How about The Miz?
He's one of the top stars in the business right now.
I mean, just what?
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thought him and AJ Styles? The match they had.
Oh, sorry. The match that they had immediately following that, yes. I mean, well, he's endorsed. I don't know. You should have gotten on the bandwagon
but
5 years ago when I first endorsed him.
They have
6 years
elevated
ago.
The Miz nonstop on SmackDown.
And they should, because he's a top star on that brand.
But for the last 4 years, he's been kind of a joker.
Is that where the brand split comes into play?
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Well, that is this week's WWE Smackdown report.
Primetime continues with the Event Center, Hot News, the 3 Count, and DWHS.
The biggest party event of WrestleMania weekend is back. WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash presents Shenanigans Orlando. Join Nash and his friends for a huge VIP party Saturday, April 1st. party with the biggest stars of wrestling at the pub at Point Orlando on International Drive to kick off WrestleMania weekend. Don't miss Shenanigans Orlando, hosted by Kevin Nash. Tickets are available now and going fast at PWRshow.com. That's PWRshow.com.
Welcome to the PrimeTime Event Center. I'm Linda Kay with this week's upcoming events. WWE Fastlane comes to Milwaukee March 5th. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com. The Shenanigans VIP party at WrestleMania in Orlando, hosted by Kevin Nash, is on April 1st. Tickets are still available at PWRshow.com. And Ring of Honor Wrestling returns to Turner Hall in Milwaukee on April 28th. Tickets are available at papstheater.org. And that's it for this week's Event Center.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Prime time. It's the final leg of our journey this week, David Hero. And, well, let's kick it off with this week's hot news and unfortunate news that we learned about on Monday. And you saw that WWE's Raw program was dedicated to this fact. But Jimmy Snuka, who we talked about last week on this program, passed away over the weekend at the age of 73. Snuka, of course, a WWE Hall of Famer and a legend in the business. And without looking at anything that happened with him outside the ring, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, part of a destiny in wrestling and part of a big time in the 80s and 70s for WWE.
One of the biggest stars in the history of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
Imagine what he could have been now.
Yeah. Did he ever get his due, if you will, as big a star as he was?
No, he never made the Hulk Hogan money because Hogan was always on top, but Jimmy Snuka was always right there.
Yeah.
Always right there.
Yeah, it was. You sort of took him for granted. He was almost a Macho Man before a Macho Man, wasn't he?
Better than Macho Man.
Meaning he was carrying the card,
yes,
but not making the money.
Right.
Rest in peace, and our condolences obviously go out to the family and fans and friends of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. David Hero, we talked about earlier, I think. I don't know if we mentioned it, so we'll talk about it again. Jerry the King Lawler, of course, the host of King's Court this past Tuesday on SmackDown. He also appeared on Talking Smack after 205 Live on the WWE Network and indicated that he indeed not only will be a part of the Royal Rumble pre-show in San Antonio, but he's actually going to be calling the match with Michael Cole and Corey Graves.
And I think that's great. Jerry's going to bring a different dynamic because it's going to be a 4-hour pay-per-view.
Oh, please don't remind me. I'd rather not realize that until hour 3 is about to end. You know what I mean? It's just like, firstly, how rude is that of WWE? You've kept me hostage. Think of WrestleMania Epic last year.
The bar will still be open.
No, I get it. But I have, generally at that time of night, people are waiting for me somewhere.
They usually are.
So if I think it's going to be over at 10, respect my time, make it over at 10. I'd rather you, instead of stretching it to 4 hours, I'd rather you bring it back to 3.
You like things shorter?
I like wrestling pay-per-view events to occur over a shorter period of time, yes.
I agree 100%. But Jerry Lawler will help it. He'll bring some comedy to it. I think he'll make it entertaining. How about that UK pay-per-view?
We're going to talk about that later on in the 3 count, the tournament from this past weekend from the UK.
Oh.
Actually, no, we're going to talk about that now on Hot News. This is incredibly rare. What just happened, ladies and gentlemen, was he thought I was lost on this here run sheet, and he tried to correct me, as I do to him 78 times each of these broadcasts, and he was actually right. And I wasn't lost, though. I was just letting the last segment sink in.
Oh, I'm glad it's
letting it simmer, if you will.
It did sink. There's no question about it.
Folks, this past weekend on the WWE Network, it was indeed the first ever United Kingdom Championship Tournament, the United Kingdom Wrestling Tournament on the WWE Network. And we have a brand new and first ever United Kingdom champion from WWE, and he is only 19 years old, folks. His name is Tyler Bate, as he defeated the also tremendous Pete Dunne in that tournament this past weekend. A 2-day tournament. The action called by Michael Cole and Nigel McGuinness. Great pairing for those two. I didn't watch the whole tournament. I watched portions of it. But overall, a big story with a new UK champion being crowned. But what do they do with him next? What does it mean to be the UK champion?
Who knows?
Are they going to get orange ropes?
Do you know what I'm wishing?
And segments.
Do you know what I'm wishing?
What are you wishing?
One of these times, when Triple H takes the picture with the winner of something, that they're at least as tall as Triple H. Like when
these are cruiserweights.
When I saw the
They're
picture
cruiserweights.
of Master
He's
Tyler
19.
Bate, I was like,
what is?
I'm just thinking. He's like up to here.
You are a sick soul. You know that?
Keep it professional here.
Oh, yeah. I'll try.
Do you see me dying right now? No.
What were you saying? He's a cruiserweight. He's supposed to be small.
I know, but
Triple H is a man,
but
baby.
It doesn't matter whoever it is next to him. They're always at least a head shorter.
The UK tournament, what happens next with that championship? What is it to be the UK champion? Is there another tournament next year and you have to defend that title? Probably, huh? How fair is that to the champion?
He'll be at WrestleMania with that belt.
He'll be at NXT with that belt, possibly.
It was a gimmick.
It was, and it worked. And Triple H actually did an interview recently where he revealed something that we talked about on this program a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be talking about that in just a moment in the 3 count. As a matter of fact, with that was this week's hot news. So let's roll into the 3 count. As you know, we tackle 3 subjects, spend about a minute on each, and the first of which, David Hero, I want to get your thoughts on a person who is growing on me tremendously, and that is the gentleman, Jack Gallagher.
Great gimmick, great character. I like everything about
The
him.
umbrella, Ella.
It's great. It just unfortunately he's working with our good friend Arya Daivari.
Who he defeated on 205 Live with 3 umbrellas.
I know.
With 3 different umbrellas.
Great for Arya to get the TV time, but the gentleman, I mean, he is.
And it was an I forfeit match, let's not forget.
He is a great character. He's exactly what they need in the cruiserweights.
He is, and he is so
Pale.
easy to hate, isn't he?
Hate?
His arrogance, his gentlemanness.
But he's a babyface.
I'm not sure that. Okay, what is he, a babyface or is he a good guy?
I think he's a bit. Well, it's the same thing. I think he's a babyface.
Well, that's not always the same thing. He could be being positioned as a babyface, but I think he's got one of those personalities that at least they show that it's like, I won't like this guy, and he cheated to win against Arya Daivari in the I forfeit match.
Yeah, but Arya Daivari was the heel.
Yes, that is clear.
He's an Arab. He's got to be
Gentlemen,
the heel.
moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to our second topic here in the 3 count, and that is your dear friend Alicia Fox, David Hero. She done gone mad. She done lost her mind, as Ike Turner would say.
She has never looked more beautiful than she is right now.
So you like him crazy?
That's a given.
She's been aligning herself with cruiserweights who aren't sure which one she's aligning herself with. But her craziness was eloquent, was made so eloquent this past Monday night on Raw.
You know what? She's always been a star. She's been underutilized.
Been there for a long time.
But they never have used her right. I mean, she was a Divas champion for a while. She does everything they ask, and she's believable at what she does.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy to see her getting more TV time again.
Next, then finally on the 3 count this week, number 3 is Randy Orton, who apparently got into an altercation with a fan in a gym this past weekend, and that fan has been very vocal about the altercation because Randy Orton declined to give him an autograph. Now, this occurred while Randy Orton was working out in said gym, and he was actually in the middle of his sets when this fan approached him and asked him for the autograph. David Hero, I'll let you tackle this one. Is Randy Orton right or wrong?
He's absolutely right.
Is the fan right or wrong?
He's absolutely wrong.
How so?
First of all, it's like when you're out for dinner. Wait till they're done eating before you go bother them.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working out, when you're hanging and banging and clanging and everything else, you're focused on your body and your workout and your sets and everything else. The last thing you want to do is to be interrupted for an autograph because you know...
Throws off your mojo. Throws off your game.
The goof is going to want to talk then also. Okay? And say, I'm a big fan of yours.
In that particular case, you're referring to that fan as a goof, not all.
Right.
Thank
sure.
you.
And it's just, he's lucky Randy didn't punch him in the face. It's like it's an invasion of his space.
Yeah. So how do you teach fans that level of respect?
You can't. It all starts at home. The parents do a crappy job.
Well, but your parents don't teach you how to meet a celebrity.
They teach you manners.
The excitement,
Look
the
at
getting
Cal.
this, oh my God, that's Randy Orton.
You think Cal would ever do that?
No, he's been in the business of most of his life, though.
But still, he gets it. It's like,
because
okay,
he's
I'll
in
wait.
the business. These are fans who, okay, if you saw Selma Hayek somewhere randomly,
yeah.
let's say she was in a gym.
Sure.
In, let's say, somewhere in northern Illinois.
That would be fantastic.
And you saw her. Would you?
I would wait till she was done.
How do you know when she's done? When she's heading to the showers?
When she's walking out the door to leave.
So you'd follow her?
No, I would just wait. I'd still be working out probably next to her.
How do you define working out at that point?
Whatever's going to get my blood flowing.
That is this week's 3 count, ladies and gentlemen. I thought we were done talking about Tyler Bate. But with that, though, and thank God we are at this point, it is time for this week's DWHS. David Hero has spoken, in case he hasn't already.
No,
David,
listen, this week's DWHS is all about the game. It's all about Triple H. Look what he has done over the last several years. He has mended fences. He has rebuilt bridges. He got Bruno Sammartino in the Hall of Fame. He brought the Ultimate Warrior to the Hall of Fame. He got Kurt Angle back in the Hall of Fame.
Triple H made that call.
He even brings back Mickie James, who left the company because of her failed relationship with John Cena. He is giving the fans exactly what they have been asking for. You can complain that he has buried talent in the past. I think all he has done has been helping talents. Yeah, he won the Rumble last year, but who did he put over? The young lion in Roman Reigns.
Yep. On what stage?
At the biggest stage of them all.
In front of the biggest audience ever.
About Triple H, he has been nothing but amazing for the WWE. He brought us the Cruiserweights, the UK title, and more stuff coming. Triple H has been more than the game. He's been the man. And with that, David Hero has spoken.
You talk about the more stuff coming. Well done, by the way. Talk about the more stuff coming. Triple H recently saying in an interview just yesterday that there will indeed be a women's tournament similar to that of the Cruiserweights and the UK performers. Actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't a Cruiserweight tournament in the UK when you were talking about the size of the performers. My apologies, I was wrong. But it will be a women's tournament similar to those tournaments that have already occurred. What he's wondering, though, is when it's going to happen. He's got to fit it in with the WWE pay-per-view schedule on the network, and it looks like summer of 2017 will be that time where we get the women's tournament. Now, we already have 2 women's championships, so what do they get in this women's tournament?
Maybe they they'll get drafted to one of the brands.
Boom. There you go. Well, folks, want to remind you, subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Report right here on YouTube. And also comment on our videos. Tomorrow we bring you Feedback Friday under protest. And if your comment is selected, you can be a part of that show
under
as
protest.
Well, tomorrow is we started the week with a tremendous holiday celebrating a great man. We're ending the week with the death of America. Also, follow us on
Twitter.
Twitter
A chance,
at Damian Nelson. He hasn't given anyone else a chance. And at David Hero and at PWR Show.
Voss a chance.
Brandon, of course, at Linda K22 on Twitter. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow for Feedback Friday. Thank you for joining us here for Prime Time.